On the surface, Western and Eastern religion seem to be fundamentally opposed. The former wants us to have faith in something, while the other encourages non-attachment to anything. This is a very limited understanding. Faith is the surrender of the self to what is higher than itself. Non-attachment is the discipline that keeps this surrendering from hardening into dogma. The purpose of religion is to train the person to release egoic control over experience. As Meister Eckhart said, non-attachment is the condition in which the soul's will and God's will have become one, so that action is no longer driven by anxious self-assertion, but becomes free, directed, and unforced. Faith is less like belief, and more like confidence or trust. Thomas Aquinas said that faith is a settled orientation of the whole person toward the divine. It is a mode of being and a relation, not merely an opinion. Religious symbols and rituals and doctrines are useful because the absolute cannot be grasped by ordinary conceptual thought. Most people have shallow minds, and most atheists cling to the pragmatic rhetoric of religion and in doing so inhabit the same intellectual space as those who cling blindly to dogmas. But those with deep minds understand that the interesting question is not whether dogmas are meant to be literally true, but whether a doctrine is an effective, practical way of expressing something difficult to grasp, and in a form that can be grasped by people with shallow minds. Religion is a tool, a technology. God is not simply an object towards which faith is directed. Rather, God names the fulfilled state in which faith and non-attachment have done their work. Faith affirms, while non-attachment negates, but both converge on a state in which the individual self no longer stands apart as a believing, grasping, striving subject. In the cloud of unknowing, it is taught that God is not reached by thought, but by love. To enter that love, one must pass through a cloud of forgetting in relation to created things. Non-attachment is the highest virtue because it empties the soul so completely that God can be born within it. Faith allows the finite self to entrust itself to the absolute, and non-attachment allows the finite self to stop trying to possess itself. God, or rather freedom and spontaneity and creativity, is the fulfilled state in which faith need no longer be practiced because it has become reality itself, the state in which our being has been surrendered and thus freed. Most of the proponents and critics of modern religion treat God as something to affirm or deny respectively, and thus they reduce religion to a factual claim about what exists out there. This is a shallow caricature of religiosity that traps people in this totally beside-the-point dialectic between believers and non-believers. One side says God exists somewhere and that its doctrine is literally true. The other says that this being probably does not exist and that the doctrine is irrational or unfounded. You must understand that a person who takes religion as metaphysics, heaven as a place in the sky, and God as a cosmic superperson is not engaging with the central point at all, which is to have confidence in one's own intrinsic freedom. It makes no difference whether you believe or disbelieve in all those things, because you are only believing or disbelieving in a mental construct. And disbelief is easy if your target is an old man floating in the sky judging what we do. That target is shallow, and yet there are many who conclude that a skillful intellectual rejection of this crude idol amounts to a refutation of religion. You do not get it. Religion concerns the highest orientation of consciousness. It concerns value. Secular life cannot refute value. It can only replace the symbol of God with some other substitute. Human beings have a need to orient life around something sacred, or authoritative, or meaningful, or worthy of sacrifice. The object of this capacity can change, but the capacity itself always remains. Whatever concerns a person unconditionally and orders their life and demands sacrifice becomes their functional God. That object may be the traditional God, but it may also be money, the ego, politics, science, or pleasure. Human beings always serve something, because desire is the basis of intentional action. Carl Jung described libido as a general psychic energy. Desire, striving, imagination, devotion, fear, ambition. It is the force by which the psyche moves towards objects, images, ideals, and, indeed, gods. Faith is a technology for directing libido. It is to orient our libido towards what is considered as of ultimate significance. God is the name we have given to that ultimate significant, which is the liberation of itself. That is, faith is the direction of intention towards the liberation of intention. When a society kills their God, they do not become irreligious. They simply direct their intention elsewhere. You can kill what is regarded as of ultimate value, but you cannot kill valence itself. The libido naturally craves possession and power and certainty and pleasure, but we have evolved this remarkable reasoning mind as a tool that can prevent us from wasting this sacred force on relative things. Faith, by itself, implies that our interests should be bound to an object. Detachment, by itself, implies that our interests should be admonished or quelled. Together, they are complementary, for together they show that the greatest goal and the absence of a goal are the same. Religion is simply an organised way that life has come up with to distinguish the sacred from the ordinary, where the sacred refers to that which is regarded as more important than everyday utility. We may say that we do not believe in God, but the structure of faith is fundamental to human nature. We inevitably place trust and hope and confidence somewhere, lest we fall into a pit of despair. Even the nihilist has a highest value, and as the Buddhists have recognised, even detachment can be clung to when someone lives by it too deliberately. The question we should be asking ourselves is not whether we should accept a religion. It is, what religion are we already practicing, whether we admit it or not? Our culture is struggling because we have lost a shared sacred order and replaced it with unstable private gods like money and power and the ego. We are left in a vacuum of meaning, which is exploited by the market by persuading us that salvation can be bought. Identity, politics, wellness, status, progress, and entertainment are all weak gods because they cannot provide us with freedom. It does not matter what solutions we come up with to change our world for the better. There's no hope apart from the hope that we change our religion. Religion is not an optional extra within culture. Religion is the bedrock of culture. The ability to value is the bedrock of society. There are no purely political problems. There are no environmental problems. There are no social problems. There are no technological problems. There are only the effects of our ability to value and to direct attention and intention. There is only weak versus strong religion. Nothing else is going to save us. The world appears to us through value. Things present themselves as desirable or threatening, noble or base, meaningful or empty. And because experience is valenced, consciousness always has an orientation. It is attracted towards what appears good and repelled away from what appears bad. Our moral sense is grounded on this natural discrimination between better and worse states of being. Over time, the way we reinforce our attention shapes the entire field of experience. If we repeatedly orient ourselves towards harmony and freedom, then we are going to inhabit a different world than if we orient towards alienation and compulsion. We suffer when we crave what destabilizes us, when we resist what must be accepted, when we identify with what is transient, and when we treat relative goods as though they were absolute. To value in a way that is good is simply to become free from unnecessary suffering, and religion is the technology that makes this possible. You can forget about all the temples and churches and practices. That's not what religion is. Religion is right here, right now. It is simply what you do. Religions become organised in order to name the highest good, diagnose the source of disorder, prescribe practices that reorganise the way we desire, and promise a transformed state of being at the end. In Christianity, this appears as sin and salvation, in Buddhism as craving and awakening, in Platonism as separation and reunification. And what is the highest good? It is the source and outcome of having the most favourable possible orientation. There is no separation between subject and object. The world is a representation of our collective orientation and intention and expectation. You may not believe this, but religion is not about belief, so let me present you with a wager. Either we believe that our faith can create a perfect world, or we do not believe. If we believe and we are right, then we shall inhabit a perfect world. If we believe and we are wrong, it makes no difference. If we disbelieve and we are right, it makes no difference. And if we disbelieve and we are wrong, we shall inhabit a terrible world. Wager, then, without hesitation, that freedom is possible. There is here an infinity of an infinitely happy life to gain, a chance of gain against a finite number of chances of loss. Our proposition is of infinite force when there is the finite to stake in a game where there are equal risks of gain and of loss, and the infinite to gain. But some cannot believe. They should then at least learn your inability to believe, and endeavour then to convince yourself. Heaven and hell are states produced by the direction of consciousness and desire. Hell is the condition in which consciousness becomes trapped in compulsive craving, hatred, fear, ego inflation, alienation, and addiction. Hell is apparent wherever there are corrupt institutions, propaganda, totalitarianism, loneliness, tribal politics, and any general collapse of trust. What better symbols for these things could there be than fire, hunger, torment, darkness, and isolation? Any mode of being is a reflection of the beings residing within it. There are no separate worlds beyond awareness. There are only different ways that awareness experiences itself. Heaven, by contrast, is a state in which there is no possessiveness, or compulsion, or despair, or delusion. It is apparent wherever there is trust, beauty, reverence, wisdom, and morality. Heaven is participation in the form of the good, while hell is separation from it. These states are built and will be built by individual persons. Every day we answer, through our actions, what do I worship? What do I attend to? Do I serve a higher good or a lower impulse? In short, in what value, in what God do I act as though I believe?